Hi, Gordon here with week 26 of 2012, a year with Mya-Moe Unscripted. This week I'm going to start a three-part series that talks about how we build in the shop, how we work with people who are ordering their instrument and the schedule and timing of various events that lead up to the delivery of the instrument, and then lastly, why you have to wait so long to get your instrument and why, well, what we could do about that and why we're not doing anything about it, which sounds worse than I mean it to sound. But I'll explain the economics and the realities behind the schedule. So this week I'm going to talk about how we work in the shop because it's quite different than most other small builders. I think in the history of small building and instrument building, people have built in batches, which means they may build 5 or say 10 instruments at a time. And they will do every step on those 5 or 10 instruments together, and then they will move them along and do every step. And when they finish the instruments, they will all get finished at about the same time. Now that's historically why how it's been done. Why is that? Well, it's space limitations. It's because most of the steps in the building of the instrument require a good bit of tooling. And in fact, at times it takes more time to set up the workstation and the tooling than it does to actually do the operation. But in a small shop, you've got no alternative but to set up and tear down or move things around. So once you get set up for a particular operation, in order to be efficient, you have to do as many instruments as you can, or do that operation on as many instruments as you can. That is batch building. When we set up here, we built a 1,000 square foot shop. We built it at that size because we built it just for instruments, and we built it at that size because we knew we could set up all the stations and leave them set up all the time. What that means is, first of all, it's more efficient. We don't have to set up and tear down. The quality is higher because we don't have any errors in maybe setting something up wrong or not calibrating it correctly. We get it calibrated, we measure it often, we measure the process, and the quality and consistency is higher. And we did it that way because we wanted to set up the shop to be a little production line. I think that is the way to achieve the highest quality, the best consistency, the most efficiency from having a production line. Most people just don't have the space to do it. I've been fascinated with manufacturing for a long time. When I got out of college, I went into the Air Force, but my job was to watch over government contracts. They were automation contracts at the various aerospace manufacturers. So at, I don't know, age 22 or so, I was traveling all over the country to look at the various aerospace manufacturing facilities. And I just learned a lot about manufacturing and the manufacturing process, and as I said, was just fascinated by it. So the chance to set up our shop in that way, in a production line way, really motivated me. And that's how we've set it up. We break down the instrument build into 14 steps. Each step is constrained, or it stops when we have to wait for glue to dry or finish to dry. And so if you look at the instruments in Shop Tracker and Uke Tracker, you see that they are built in 14 shop days once we actually get started on the process. If you look also, you'll find that there are 2 instruments at every step in the process. Now sometimes that varies a little bit, but in general there are 28 instruments in process, 2 at every step. So when we go out to the shop, we will work on each instrument that is at each step of the process, and that happens each day. It varies a little bit depending upon whether there are 1 or 2 or 3 of us working and what instruments we're working on. But what this means is that every day we are touching nearly every instrument. This gives us just great connection with the people that have ordered the instruments, but more importantly, I think it is what's led to what I believe is a great consistency of our instruments. We try to keep things as consistent as possible. Why? If I can have them consistent, then I have predictability. And if I have predictability of the instrument, then we can determine if we change one thing, what effect it has on the instrument. If you're not predictable and if you can't be consistent, then how do you know whether a change in bracing material had an effect or it didn't have an effect? Maybe it was something else that occurred. But with our process, we can very clearly test the cause and effect of various design parameters. So we are aiming for something that is just very consistent in our instrument. And I think we achieve that through our production process. And as I say, it has these other side benefits as well, in that I feel like when we start an instrument, we're really living with that owner, that eventual owner, all the way through the process. And if anything changes in the process at all, we know it right away. We know it on the first instrument, and so we can stop things right away and find out what has changed. Is there a piece of tooling that's gone awry or is worn down, or do we have a part problem? Things want to always change on us. It's very hard to keep them the same, but by having this continuous process and continuous flow, we can monitor the quality much more carefully. So that's how we work in the shop. That's how the instruments get done. You can tie that right to Uke Tracker and Shop Tracker. And next week I will talk about what happens when you order and the various things that lead up to the building in the shop. Thanks. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.